Welcome to Tangent Animation Blender Unit 1.2, dealing with selection. If you're coming from a Maya background, your first instinct inside a scene is to start clicking around with your left mouse button. That doesn't have any effect on these separate objects. What it's doing is moving what is called the 3D cursor. We're not concerned with that functionality right now. We'll cover that in another unit. So I'm going to hit Shift-C and recenter that. Now, to select objects in the Blender viewport, you use the right mouse button. So I'm going to click on the camera here with the right mouse button, cube, lamp, then I can start potentially performing operations on them. If I hold down the Shift key, right mouse button, I can select multiple objects. So the next question is, how do I deselect? In Maya, you would just click in blank space, and that doesn't work here. How that works here is just hit the A key. A in the viewport deselects everything that you had selected. Similarly, strike A again, and it will select all in your viewport. So deselect all, select all. Now, it is worth noting, if you select several objects in a scene, the last one selected is your primary object. So if I look at its stats here in the information window over here, which you call up for any object by hitting the N key, I'm going to tweak the translate Z, which in Blender is the vertical axis. That moves just the camera up and down because I'm only seeing the statistics for the last object that I had selected. But if I grab the manipulator in the viewport, that pulls all of the objects that I have selected. Okay, so I'm going to deselect. Now, I can also select objects in the outliner by name. This is with the left mouse button. Same functionality, different button. And I can also shift select to grab another object. Works a little differently than Maya. It does not select the object between the selections using shift. I have to shift select that explicitly. So there is no control select in the outliner in Blender like there is in Maya. So once again, click, shift click, precludes the object in the middle. I can click on that to make that part of the selection set. So I'm going to select 3 objects in a row once again, lamp, cube, camera, and I want to deselect the camera. What I can do is, since that's the primary object, I can just shift, right mouse click on it, goes out of the selection set. I'll reselect it. What if I want to deselect the lamp? Right mouse click becomes the primary object, right mouse click again takes it out of the selection set. That seems like a lot of clicks. There are easier ways to do this, but we're going to go over all the different methods. A to deselect all once again. Another important selection tool in Blender is the B key. To press the B key, you'll get a crosshair. With the left mouse button, draw, and you'll get a marquee box that will select anything within that box. So I'll deselect, draw a larger box, and it selects everything that I have drawn around. So once again, I will deselect, be a little more selective and just grab these 2 objects, deselect. Now, this also works in the outliner. I can go B and drag around these objects. Now that will highlight those objects. It's not actually selecting them, but if I use my right mouse button and hit select, it will select all those objects. And if I want to unhighlight, I can just hit the A key in here, and they are no longer highlight. Another important tool is the lasso select. So I hold Control and left mouse button. That will draw a lasso like that and select my objects. So I'll draw a larger one. There I have everything. Now, if I hit Control Shift and left mouse button, I can also deselect any object with the lasso tool as well. Now, there's yet another mode of selection in Blender. If we hit the C key, we'll get a little circle. And if we start going over objects with that, with the left mouse button, that is the Paint Select tool. So I can deactivate that by hitting the right mouse button or Escape. So I'm going to deselect, invoke the tool again, and I can increase or decrease the size of the paint tool with my scroll wheel. Now, honestly, this is only so effective in the 3D viewport with full objects. It's more of a modeling tool. I will briefly show you how that would be effectively used before you do the modeling module, give you a little upfront taste. Now, I have these objects up to show hopefully a slightly more practical application of the paint selection tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this plane. Don't worry about how I'm doing this right now. This will be covered in the modeling modules. I'm going to hit Tab regardless so I can see the faces of the object, and I'm going to hit C to go into the paint tool, and I can create a more organic selection pattern. Get out of that tool. I'm going to grab the sphere and do the same thing, and I can increase or decrease the size of the paint tool with my scroll wheel and do very, very specific selection patterns on more complex objects. That offers some insight as to practical usage of the paint selection tool.